Okay, Bruce. Let's go to work. Alright, so I didn't really plan about what I want to talk about. I only just decided what I want to talk about when I got in the car. I've been spending a lot of my time thinking about an upcoming game this Friday that I have to work out the storyline for. It's a new game that I haven't played before with these guys. Well, I played once with some of the players, but not with two of the new players. So I've got to try and work their characters into the storyline. So that's been dominating my mind for the last 24 hours. But I guess I would talk about something I touched on in the last video I did, where I was talking about, who are more moral, conservatives or liberals, or who are, more generous, what have you. And near the end, I started talking about minimum wage. And I said, I could go on an entire video about minimum wage. So I figured I'll do a video about minimum wage. So why do I oppose the minimum wage? Well, it's a particularly libertarian stance. I don't believe it's the right of the state to interfere in a mutually agreed upon transaction between two people. And from that position come all sort of other positions that libertarians have with regards to how much the state should be involved in people's lives. But minimum wage in particular is especially pernicious. I like using big words, but I can't always say them correctly. Reason being, it interferes with the worker who it's designed to protect, and it interferes with the businessman who basically drives the economy, right? So if I want to hire somebody, suppose I have a warehouse where I ship books, and this kid comes to me. He needs an after-school job. He wants to make some money. He doesn't have any skills. He's a scrawny kid. He can't lift boxes like the guys who I'm paying, $15 an hour to do it. This is hypothetical, obviously. And, I do all the calculations. I figure, okay, the warehouse floor, it can get messy, and that can cause people to slip, and could cost me money in missed days of work and disability, that kind of thing, right? Now normally I would have my workers clean the floor themselves, clean up their work area, and keep it clean for themselves, right? But they get busy and they get lazy sometimes, and they don't clean up as much as they want. So I've been thinking about hiring this kid to clean up the floor, sweep it up, make sure there's no debris on the floor, make sure there's nothing they're going to slip on, that kind of thing. So the idea is he'll come in after school, and for 4 hours he'll sweep the floor and he'll mop the floor, or what have you. Again, hypothetical situation. Now, he's not making me any money. His efforts might save me some money in, like I said, missed days of work due to, slipping and falling or disability. So he's not making me money. So I deem his labor worth about $7 an hour. But the state would come in and say, no, you can't pay him $7 an hour. You got to pay him a minimum of $10 an hour. Well, if that's the case, then I'll just say, screw it. He's not worth $10 an hour. So in order for me to pay him $10 an hour, I've either got to cut the hours of some of my other workers, reduce the pay of some of my other workers, which I'm not going to do, or just say screw it. I'll just let the floor be dirty, and if somebody slips and falls, then so be it. So that impacts the business in its ability to run efficiently, right? It impacts the high school kid who just wants to get a job. He can't work because the wage that the state is mandating isn't commensurate with the value of the work he's doing. So I'm just not going to hire him. So that's when people say, well, the minimum wage helps low-skilled workers attain a livable wage. Sure, those low-skilled workers that have a job and aren't in immediate danger of losing their job should the minimum wage increase. But it keeps young, scrawny kids whose only asset is they know how to push a broom, it keeps them out of the workforce, right? It keeps them from learning the skills. Now, if I could pay him $7 an hour to push the broom, if he's really efficient and really diligent with his work, he's probably going to have some free time. He's going to start to learn and pick up through osmosis the skills needed by the other people working around him, the guys who, the heavy lifters, the guy who move the boxes around the warehouse, the guys who keep track of the inventory, the guys who keep the organization system running smoothly, right? He's going to pick up those skills. And if he does a really good job, I may train him on those things and then get him to the next position, right? And that's the thing, I think a lot of people would rather take a shitty, low-paying job if it meant it was going to get them in the door. At least that's how I viewed, when I first started working, that's how I thought about it, right? I was like, my first real job was at a gas station, pumping gas at a full-service gas bar. I don't even remember what I was paid, but it was paltry. But I didn't need money then. I lived at home. I was like in grade 10 or 11, no 10, I was in grade 10. And any money I made just went into my pocket. So I didn't care about what I was getting paid. I wasn't even really paying attention to much. I just needed a job. But the hope was that I'd be there long enough that eventually I'd get a management position. Ultimately, I got assistant manager and then acting manager when it changed from a corporate gas bar to a franchise, right? Until the new owner took over, I was sort of acting manager. But that's how people are supposed to, that's how high school students, that's how people new into the workforce should be viewing their first job. They shouldn't be looking at it as, well, I need money so that I can live. They should be looking at it as, I need a job so that I can gain the skills necessary that I can get a career, or I can move up and earn a living wage, as they say, right? Anyway. But what's worse is also, minimum wage. Suppose I did hire the kid, and he says, no, the government says, you got to pay him $10 an hour. So suppose I hire him, and I pay him $10 an hour, right? I have to offset that cost. So maybe I cut it into my profit margin. Maybe I'm like, okay, so I'll go a little lean for, the next 2 quarters, right? Or I work my guys harder. I'm like, okay, we're going to be cutting shifts. So your shifts are now 1 hour shorter per day. Great, you get to knock off early. But you still have to process the same amount of orders in that time, which means they've got to work harder. And when minimum wage increases, small businesses who can't afford to keep have allotted a certain amount of money for their labor, now all of a sudden their labor costs increase, they spike by 20%, 25%. That's eating into their bottom line. That's going to eat into their profits. Or the business, who maybe isn't operating on a great profit margin to begin with, needs to make some cuts. So what happens? They've got a workforce of 5, now they're cut to 4. So now everybody has to pick up the slack. So they're working harder. So yeah, their wages went up, but now they're doing 20% more work. They make more mistakes, cost the business more money. Anyway, people should be free to decide what they want to work for. And that also ties into the whole, illegal immigrant, question. People get upset because illegals come into the country and they'll work for less than minimum wage because they're not on the books. And the employers are going, people say shame on the employers for doing that. But I mean, the employers they're trying to make money. And they're like, look, I've got two options here. I can hire a guy by the state mandate, have to file all the paperwork for him and pay him $12, $15 an hour, whatever. Or I can hire this guy, pay him under the table at $8 an hour. He's going to do as good a job. Yeah, okay, maybe there's a language barrier, but I've got lots of people working for me who already speak his language and can explain to him what the job is. So I don't really care too much. And if I get caught, okay, there's a fine, big deal. And then I just have to hire another illegal. So if you want people to be able to compete with illegals, do away with things like the minimum wage. Anyway. I mean, I'll be honest, when I used to work in retail, I was like, well, minimum wage went up. Great, sweet, my pay's gonna go up. Then I got into management, and I don't know if anybody's worked in management in retail, the most thankless job you could ever be in. It's awful. I would sooner go back and work at a cash register than be a manager in retail, even though it meant more money. It's the hassle involved in being management in retail versus the reward. It's just not worth it. But anyway, so I remember getting minimum wage increases. When minimum wage would go up, my wage would go up, and my boss would grumble about it. But I was like, I don't care, I'm making more money. But when I turned to management, and then they started making, and I was being paid salary, and then they started raising minimum wage, I was like, hey, wait, what gives? These guys are getting a wage increase. This guy who you just hired, I've been here for 3 years, this guy you just hired is now making only a couple of bucks less than I am. And I've got all this work on my plate. And my review is not up for another, 6, 8, 9 months or whatever, if I ever got a review. Some small businesses I work for, they never did wage reviews until you pissed and moaned enough that they actually sat down and said, okay, I'll give you a raise. But it sucks for the people who are an assistant manager or middle manager in retail, because now their work is devalued. Right? Minimum wage is a boondoggle, and I understand the idea behind it. It's again, road to hell paved in good intentions. It only helps people on a very temporary basis and in a very small way, like in a very minor way, to a very few, like to a small degree for a few people. They have their wages increased slightly, but then, I mean, not to mention the cost of living goes up because labor costs more. If they didn't take a cut in labor force, they had to increase prices, right? So now, even though you're being paid more, everything's costing more, because now everybody who works alongside you is being paid more, and that adds to the bottom line cost of goods. Anyway, I'm at work now, and I can't talk any further. If you want, you can follow me on Twitter. It's at Cragbrag, CRAGGBRAGG, and you can like my Facebook page, Craig Bragg's Jimmy Rustling Politics page. Anyway, that's my vid, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you. Bye bye.